microphones on.
For the flag salute. Okay, so there's no flag in it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for the men and women of our armed services and those we lost due to COVID-19. Thank you. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was provided in the following manner. On September 10th, 2020, advance written notice of the meeting was submitted to the Daily Record for publication on September 12th, 2020. On September 10th, 2020, advance written notice of the meeting was posted to the board docs and the Mount Olive School District website and was emailed to the 6 schools and the Mount Olive Township municipal buildings for posting. I direct this announcement to be entered into the minutes of this meeting. Roll call in.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Strelacci?
Here.
Mr.
Mr. Petrie?
Here.
Dr. Gales?
Here.
Mr. Kemna?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Dr. Beardsley? Mr. Giordano?
Here. Approval of the minutes. Mr. Petrie.
Motion to approve open and closed minutes from August 31st, 2.1. Second.
Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call in.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Kemna?
Yes.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Strelacci?
Yes.
Dr. Gales?
Yes.
And Dr. Giordano?
Yes. Communication petitions from the superintendent?
None at this time.
Board members? Seeing none? Student liaison report? The student liaison's not coming today, Dr. Z? Probably not.
I have
Oh,
not
wait a
heard.
minute. Oh, there they
Here
are.
she is.
Okay.
There they are.
There we go.
So, because it is a new school year and everything's been slowed down, we haven't had a new election yet, so I'm going to be returning as your student liaison for the next few months. Yay! So, because of remote learning, there's not much to, I guess, talk about, but I do want to talk about how our sports are starting up. I believe soccer starts this week, and football hopefully starts next week. There are a lot of concerns coming from students that I've been hearing, so I would like to use my platform to kind of talk about those. It's mainly just about student activities that we don't know about yet, so stuff like homecoming, what football games are going to look like. I don't know how much you guys can answer about that, but that's definitely some concerns that I'm hearing about. And also, as a senior, I have been hearing some rumors about being allowed back into the building a little bit. I don't know if anyone can give any information on that. Other than that, our National Honor Society is still doing their brick fundraiser, so we're going to get new bricks in from the new members. And other than that, I don't think that there is much to report about.
Super. Thank you. Dr. Zawicki, would you like to explain some of those concerns or
I'll
questions?
be
what things
addressing
look
that in my superintendent's report, which is,
Thank you.
Okay, super. Okay, Dr. Zawicki will answer some of those questions in the superintendent's report. Can we turn up the volume on the mics? I can't hear literally anybody.
Especially Ms. Jones also.
Superintendent's report. I'm sorry, board members, any questions for the student liaison? I apologize.
no.
Okay, I'm sorry. Seeing none. Dr. Zawicki, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. President. So since September 8th, the reopening has gone exceptionally well, actually way better than we anticipated, and that is a credit to every single teacher, administrator, staff member executing the plan that we started, to get together and, with our stakeholders that we put together starting in May. And so the first 2 weeks have been really, really good. Tomorrow, I'm excited to welcome back our 4th and 5th grade students who their families had elected for in-person. I did a parent university before this and stressed that tomorrow is B cohort because of the rotation, so they're starting with B cohort tomorrow, and we're very excited to make that happen. Lots of staffing rapids for us to navigate to make that happen, and we're still, it's still touch and go at times, but we are a go for tomorrow. Also want to give a huge shout out to Ms. Libby and transportation. That was a Herculean effort of dealing with all the shifting cohorts and getting our kids in, and then again tomorrow. One of the major initiatives that we are putting out in as far as communication to the students and to the staff, there has been a series of districts in our county where schools have had to go to all remote learning or cancel their athletics due to out-of-school activities, gatherings, etc. So the Mask Up Marauder campaign kicked off last week, in which we're stressing to everyone that the executive order of the governor is in effect at all times, and no matter who you are, you should be wearing a mask whenever you are on campus, indoors or outdoors, and that's especially important for our sporting events. And so, yes, we have had athletes here on campus since July 1, and knock on wood, because of our precautions, things have been proceeding as planned, but it's just a reminder to everyone in the community to please avoid gatherings such as those in which there are no masks and there's no social distancing. And whenever you're on campus at one of our schools, that means a parking lot, that means a field, unless you're an athlete who's in competition, who's in the middle of vigorous activity, you are supposed to be masked as per the governor's executive order. Also, I want to give a huge shout out, I put it on my blog last week, record number of individual AP Scholar honors, 142. So since the board's adoption of the AP incentive program on my recommendation in January 2019, we've added an additional 230 exams. We've increased the diversity of the pool of students taking that, and our kids, their scores have actually upticked, and the kids are performing at the highest level. So that is, I'll have some comparative data for the county for you at the next meeting, but 142 is a record. I can't say enough good things about Sodexo. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, along with our security personnel and our director, James Karifi's here, we give out anywhere between 800 to 1,000 meals every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And it's important for parents to know that every student qualifies for free meals from now until December 31st. So for kids who are in school and kids who are also, in person, and then for families who are doing virtual learning, they're eligible for those meals. So please take advantage of this program. It's really, really important. And speaking of activities, I'm hoping to have an announcement about activities by the next board meeting. Right now, we're precluded from doing many indoor activities, as you know, but I did have a meeting with Jody and Chris Bosch about drama, and we're doing some creative things, looking to have our productions in the stadium. There's some productions such as True West, which have like 50 scenes, but only 3 actors on the stage at a time, so they have some interesting ways that we're approaching that to make that happen. As far as the other activities, we're looking also to see what we can do hybrid, what we could do outdoors, and so by the 15th of October, we should have that for you as well. When it comes to the rumors regarding juniors and seniors and 6th graders and everyone else returning, it is true that we are looking to bring students back as the same way that we did and progress through the grades. We did with K to 3 and then through 4 through 5. The issue that we're running into is that over 100 of our leaves are between 6th grade and 12th grade. And the difference at those grade levels is that they're subject-specific certifications. In K to 5, it's the K to 5 certificate. At the middle school and high school, we can't have a chemistry teacher teach social studies. So what we're looking at is how do we return kids to school, maintaining the supervision that's necessary as per the DOE and DOH guidelines of a minimum of 6 feet. But more importantly, what happens when students have their teachers are teaching remotely? And one of the things that may be is that students for a couple of periods are in a common space like this or a cafeteria doing online learning individually with teachers who may be remote, and then the next 2 periods they have teachers who are in person. But right now we're looking at a supervision issue and looking at, over 75 subs would be needed a day to do that alone at the high school, and that's an unprecedented challenge, and we're trying to overcome that. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Oh,
Sorry.
I forgot something.
Go ahead, wait a second, Ms. Wiemat. Go ahead, Dr. Z, you have something to add?
I forgot to say that we had the kickoff for our equity task force on Thursday, which we had over 50 participants, and then the subgroups are going to start breaking out over the next 2 weeks, and I'm really excited about the work that we're doing there.
Okay. Ms. Wiemat?
Yes, it's great news about the AP scores, but I just wanted to do a shout out to Mr. Stansberry for initiating that AP incentive program, and then the C&T committee for bringing it forth. It's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you. Personnel Committee report. Personnel met on Friday. It was myself, Dr. Zwicky, Mr. Kemna, Mr. Petrie. We discussed the staffing updates, and you'll see numerous substitutes on the agenda for tonight to go along with Dr. Zwicky said about trying to find subs for supervision. And then we will be going into closed session tonight to discuss some personnel issues and attorney-client privilege. And that's all. Did I miss anything? Mr. Kemna, Mr. Petrie?
That's it.
Questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. Mr. Stevens, the Curriculum and Technology Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met on the 17th. It was myself, Mr. Robinson, Mrs. Schlier, and Dr. Zwicky. And our discussion items was the MOSA grades 1 through 8. They're starting to kick off on the 29th, and it'll be running through December 3rd, as well as on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock virtually. We also have our district benchmark testing. Lincoln assessments begin this week, as well as the SRI begins the week of September the 28th, and our AP Scholar Update, which I think we've all heard about, with in January the 2019, the Board of Education approved Dr. Zwicky's recommendation to establish the MOAP Incentive Program. Since 2018, AP participation has increased by 43% from 536 exams in 2018 to 746 in 2020. Dr. Z reported that this year a record 142 MO students earned AP Scholar Awards by earning multiple scores of 3 on multiple AP exams. This is without a doubt, a tremendous accomplishment for our students, dedicated AP teachers, and the entire district. Over the last few years, we have increased scores, participation, and diversity of the students enrolled in AP courses, and for the last 2 summers, we've held an AP Summer Bridge program that has allowed our students to enroll into AP courses to access the first unit before the school year starts. And this is a big deal because I know that we were basically pushing everything in 8 months instead of 9 months, but now, going back to 9 months, and that's all of the notes.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Questions or comments from the board?
I do have one.
Yes, Dr. G.
And since we're talking about the AP participation, at the last board meeting, I asked whether or not the committee took a look at the disproportionality amongst the different subgroups with respect to the number of or percentage of kids taking AP courses and the test versus the percentage they represent in the population. At the last meeting, that answer was no. I wondered if the committee had an opportunity to discuss that at this last meeting.
So, Dr. Gales, in all honesty, I believe Dr. Beardsley misspoke. We actually did discuss it at the last meeting, and I sent the Lincoln Navigator report to the full board in August, and we did break that out. So when you look at, and I also put it in my blog to the full community last week. So when you look at, the population of the district in the high school is about 6.6% African American, and then you have 18% of the exams are students from that subgroup. When you look at 16% are Hispanic, and then it went up to, I believe, 38%. So we did actually go through all that, and it's something I sent to the board in August and put out to the full community. So we did discuss it at that last committee meeting, and then did, referenced it in this meeting again. But
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Z. I do realize that, and I did see what you sent to us regarding the participation. But my specific question at the last meeting was, you take, for example, the fact that the Asian population represents about 11 or 12% of the population, but yet over 65%, they're represented 65% of the students in AP courses and taking the exam. So my question was whether or not the committee looked at what was working for that subgroup that could be translated and transferred to the other subgroups, because there is a question of disproportionality, and that answer was no. So I'm just asking that same question. I know that you broke out the numbers, but was there a deep dive into why there's such a disproportionate representation from such a small group, and what is leading to their success that can be replicated amongst the other subgroups? And if not, maybe that can be a topic for future conversation in the committees.
Sure, absolutely, and I think a survey would be good. But when you look at the only population that is like it's actually half of what it is for the population is white. So Asian is 5 times what it is, as per the demographics. African American is 3 times, and Hispanic is 2.5 times. So the same way that we arrived in November and December of 2018 at me making the proposal for the AP Incentive Program, I think doing a survey of our students and our families regarding this issue would be good. I do know that the primary issue when we surveyed the students, and I met with the students in 2018, it was the cost issue. So now that we have removed that, I think we can do a deeper dive into that. So I will bring that to the committee next time. I did not understand the clarity of your request, but we can do that at the next curriculum committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. G. Anyone else? Seeing none, moving Finance and Operations Committee report, Mr. Kemna.
Yes, we had a meeting on Thursday, September 17th. Probably the fastest meeting we ever had, 14 minutes. Mr. Miller gave us an update on the 2020 summer projects. Everything's done. A few check list items have to be done. The NMRI's room is just waiting for the tables. We actually took a little tour. Some of us took a tour of it. The room came out very nice. Just waiting for the tables, I think next week or the week after. He gave us an update on the COVID reentry for all the schools and labeling the hallways and dividing, the water fountain shut down, all that stuff, so we're in good shape there. Looking at an air scrubber for the dome with a HEPA filter so that it's for rentals, so we're looking at that. Dr. Zawicki gave us a reentry plan and an update. I'm not going to go over that. He went over that earlier for 4th and 5th grade. Transportation, all the special education students are being transported, and they did all the passes for the younger ones manually, but we got through that. Thank you, Ms. Libby. And last thing you'll see on the one of the action items here tonight is disposal of a 1999 Ford F-250. We're going to put it up on the Gov deals. So if anybody's interested, bid away.
Super. Question or comments from the board? Seeing none? Policy and Governance Committee report, Mr. Strelacci?
Well, the Policy Committee meeting has not met, but we do have, as I stated last week, last board meeting, we have 9 policies for second reading to be adopted tonight. They have been reviewed by our consultant, Strass Esme, but it's a moot point because all of these are mandated anyhow.
Super. Question or comments from the board? Seeing none, subcommittee liaison reports. I'm not sure if any subcommittees met. No? Parent-Teacher Association reports.
Yes, please.
Mr. Schlotchi.
Planners PTA met last Wednesday night outside at the gazebo. Got a little cool, but it was very nice. It was basically a meet and greet at the first time. They're going to go virtual after that. The problem is, as you all know, the fundraisers and everything else is up in the air right now because they're not sure what they can do. However, on October 24th, they will have their tricky tray at the Bud Lake Firehouse. I asked Liz Gallo, who runs it, and she's done a tremendous job every year, if she could come or at least notify the board and explain to the board how she's doing it, because she gave such a convoluted explanation to me at that Wednesday night meeting. There's no way I'm going to get it right and tell you how they're doing it, but they are going to have it October 24th. They're also going to be doing a virtual book fair, too, in November, so to keep that going also. Other than that, everything else, they're just playing it by ear until we see what happens.
Super. Thank you, Mr. Strachey. Any questions or comments from the board? Any other Parent-Teacher Association reports? I know Sand Shore has a virtual. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. G. Go ahead. I didn't see you put your hand up. Go ahead.
I'll wait.
Oh, I was just going to announce that Sand Shore will have their meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock. They're doing it via virtual. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. I did sit in on the middle school PTO virtual meeting in place of Mr. Robinson. So if he doesn't mind, I'll give the report. Okay. So there was a large number of participants, which was really good to see. They had up to 86 participants on the virtual call. And it was great to see that as they were talking about membership, many of the parents were actually sending messages saying, I'd like to be a member, I want to get involved. So that looks really great for the middle school PTO and what they're looking forward to doing in this coming year. It started out with the president's report, and the president talked about how they had $4,300 in sales, actually $4,312 in sales. They made $1,500 in profit and were able to sell 131 masks. They tossed around the idea of doing another fundraiser, which was a pajama sale, to do something virtually like a virtual slumber party. Right now they have 47 total members, which includes parents and teachers, and they do expect that number to grow. The VP's report included, and this was the school's vice president's report, included materials pickup for the middle school students, which starts today It's Monday for 6th graders. The 7th grade is Wednesday, 8th grade is Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. And they are providing alternative options for the parents who don't feel comfortable coming to the school picking up material. They're having their virtual back-to-school night this Wednesday at 7 p.m. They also discussed wanting to do something special for the incoming 6th graders, since many of them missed their closing ceremonies in the 5th grade, and they want to set up a virtual book fair as another fundraiser. There was a parent when we were talking about student re-entry and and the district's looking for teachers. There was a parent, Fahima Anderson, who was interested in talking to the superintendent about assisting in some way, so I shared that information. With regards to the hybrid and the virtual instruction, there was pretty good feedback, and even anecdotally outside the middle school, I've received some pretty good feedback. There just was one concern about the connectivity from teachers who are working at home, but that's something outside of what we can really control, and hopefully that will be resolved. Finally, there were 3 questions that were asked that I did pass along to Dr. Zawicki for his follow-up, and those questions were, what will the virtual option look like, and what will the scheduling look like? Will he still do the communication liaisons, and where's the information posted for parents other than Twitter? And that concludes the report of the middle school.
Super, thank you. Question or comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. G. Board President's report. The board tonight, underneath the Board President's report, we need to decide as a board how, and Joe will jump in a second, how the board wants to proceed in interviewing the 3 candidates that applied for the vacant board seat. And I'll have Joe go over the process in a little bit as a reminder, refresher to the board members, but also for the newer board members. We could either have a special meeting open to the public or interview publicly all 3 members and then appoint one of those members, or we can do it at our first board meeting in October, interview them publicly, and then appoint one of the board members at that meeting. There's also the option where we can interview them in closed session, but I remember the last time we interviewed Dr. Gales and Mr. Kemna, we did that on public, and I think that's the way the board has always done that. So that's what the board, we can just go around the table in a little bit after I have Joe explain the process again, and then we can just discuss what the board wants to do as a whole, of how we want to move forward with that process. So Joe, do you want to just refresh everyone's memory and for the sake of our new members?
Sure. I mean, that's a pretty good overview of the process. We have to make 2 decisions, which is, do we want to interview the candidates in public? Do we want to interview the candidates in public or in executive session, which our policy allows? And of course, the vote on any candidate would be in public. And then also, how do we want to ask them questions? Do we want to have pre-written questions? Do we want to sequester the candidates so they don't hear the questions? If it's in public, that's not as important because everybody's in public. That kind of thing. So the board would have to decide what the process they would like to do when they interview the candidates actually, and then once that takes place, however we decide to do it, the board would vote on a candidate in public, and the vote basically takes place 1 at a time. So if someone's nominated with a second and then they get voted on, they're the board member, so you don't have to vote on every other candidate or anything like that. So it's 1 at a time, however that goes.
Super.
And then as soon as that happens, they, assuming the attorney is there to give the oath, they can take the oath and they can take the seat pending the criminal history review if that's somebody who hasn't had that yet.
Any question or comments for the board for our board attorney? Mr. Kemna, do you have a question?
I was just thinking of the voting process, and I guess that's really how we identify positions on the board.
John, can you talk into the microphone?
I'm sorry, Miss, we met. The process when it comes to voting on board members, we changed the rule, but I don't know if that has to do with, that was for positions.
That was
but
for
not
board officers.
officers,
So
correct.
basically, appointing a new board member to fill a vacancy is a simple process. Once you decide who wants to be nominated and
No, I'm talking about the voting process. We changed the voting process a couple months ago.
That was for board officers, though.
Okay.
It wasn't
Wouldn't
for...
Wouldn't carry over?
No.
Okay,
We
thank you.
could do it that way. Basically, any way we want to do it is up to us about how, assuming the policy provides for that. And our policy basically says they're nominated and voted on one at a time, because if somebody makes it, you don't have to vote on somebody else after that. So it's just 1, 2, 3.
Any other questions for our board attorney? So at this time, I would just turn it over to the board and let's just hop into it. I would think first and foremost, do we want to have a special meeting to do this, or do we just want to do this at our first board meeting in October? So just go around the table and everyone can give input. Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, I just want to say that we had a regularly scheduled meeting the 28th. I don't understand this all of a sudden while we're only meeting once a month. It's never been discussed by the board to ever meet only once a month. So why don't we have it at our regular meeting on the 28th instead of waiting until October? That way, whoever the individual is that gets the nomination from the board will have at least a couple months, 3 months, to be able to see what it's like to be a board member. I think that's the goal of everyone that comes, the people who apply, know that it's a short live thing, that it's only until December 31st. And especially if you get, new people on so they can get their feet wet, that's always kind of been the way we've thought about it. So I would think we should have a meeting.
Okay. So you were saying then to have the board meeting on the 28th of September?
Yeah, well, we already had it scheduled, and it's on our schedule, but
Okay.
I think, we ought to just have it, just go back to whatever meetings we're scheduled for,
Okay.
instead of
Mr.
changing it
President?
all the time.
Mr. Schillaci?
Yeah, I would second that also. And also, I hate having a meeting in this cavern here. You can't hear it, you can't see anything, and there's no reason in the world why we cannot have it at the middle school, because we don't get that amount of people whereby we can't social distance there.
Super.
This is just ridiculous in here. I can't even see the people out there. The lights are shining in our eyes.
Right, no, you're right. So is everyone in agreement, we just want to have the meeting on the 28th? Is
Dr.
everyone's schedule available to that?
Dr. Giordano, I just want to clarify. If
Yes,
this
go ahead,
is-
Mr.
If
Rizzo.
this is an issue, the 28th is Yom Kippur, I believe. So
Oh.
that's why the meeting
28th is Yom Kippur.
I think we have to be sensitive about that.
What did he say?
The 28th is Yom Kippur.
Okay, make it the next day.
So yeah, could we do the 29th? Is everyone's schedule available on the 29th?
Yeah. Sure. I'm okay.
Is that good, Lynn? Does that give us
Yeah.
enough time to advertise that?
I'm good.
Yes.
Okay. Is everyone good? Just raise your hand. The 29th good on Tuesday? Review the candidates? Okay. That sounds good. Lynn, could you let the candidates know? And we'll just do regular board meeting at 6:30. We'll start it, and we'll have it at the middle school?
At the middle school,
Okay.
sure.
Is that everyone okay with that?
Sounds good.
Super. And we'll do it, I'm assuming we're going to do this in public, right? Everyone's in agreement we'll do it in public? We won't go to
Yep.
closed session?
Yep.
Okay. Super.
Dr. Giordano.
Yes, Mr. Petrie.
I will be recusing myself from this since one of the people running is running for the board and I'm also running for the board. I don't feel
John, I can't hear you.
it'd be a good,
They can't hear.
I'm going to recuse myself due to the fact that one of the people who are trying to get on is also running and I'm running this year. So I don't feel comfortable being part of that discussion because I'm not sure how unbiased I can be.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, so put it on the calendars, the 29th at 6:30 at the middle school.
Anthony?
Yes. Mr. Robinson,
I
go ahead.
understand what John is saying, but in truth, you're doing it, this is for a 3-month position, and there will be 2 other people there also, besides one other candidate that have never done it. And, it'd be nice to have a choice of those people and listen to what they have to say and do the vote, because that has nothing to do with the general election.
You want to go, Mr. Petrie?
I understand. I talked to council. I feel the optics could be wrong for me, so I'm recusing myself. I'm not going to have anything to do with it. This way, there will be no questions on why I'm doing one thing or the other.
All right, John.
Anyone else?
Mr. Giordano?
Yes,
Just
Ms. Jones.
Just as a point of clarification, the meeting on September 28th was canceled.
Oh, okay.
So this will be advertised as a special board meeting.
Okay.
with a specific purpose.
Okay.
Is that correct, Joe? It
Yeah,
has to be.
that's how it should be advertised, for whatever purpose we know it tonight. So it's going to be for the purpose of interviewing and potentially appointing a
Okay.
board member
Just
to the
to,
vacancy.
just to let you know, it's not going to be a regular meeting. It's going to be a special meeting for that purpose.
Correct. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, public comments on action items. Members of the community may comment on any action items prior to the board discussion. Please state your name and address for the record. All comments must be respectfully presented. Abusive or obscene comments will not be tolerated. Stand up, state your name and address for the record, and ask on any action items. Ms. Jones, did we receive any questions
No, we did not.
from live stream? Okay. Seeing none, closing the public comment. Dr. Gills, could you approve the monthly expenditures and reports? Dr. G?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you approve the monthly expenditures and reports?
Sure, I apologize.
That's okay.
Based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, I make a motion to approve the monthly expenditures and reports, action item 6.1 to 6.6.
Question or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call in.
Dr. Gales?
Yes.
Mr. Kemna?
Yes.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
For 6.1, anything to do with Verizon, I abstain. Everything else, yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Strelacci?
Yes.
Dr. Giordano?
Yes. Mr. Mr. Peachy, personnel action items?
On the recommendation of the superintendent, I move personal action items 7.1 through 7.43.
Second.
Question or comments from the board?
Dr.
G.
President, I do have one comment, and I asked Dr. Zawicki a few questions about personnel, and regarding the long-term substitutes, I know that it's really tough out there considering the current climate. I'm just hoping that the long-term substitutes that are being recommended have been vetted. As I look at the documentation that they submitted, as I said to Dr. Zawicki, it's very sparse. And we're appointing a long-term substitute for biology, which is a graduation requirement. So understanding that I know the situation that we're in, I just hope that these individuals have been carefully vetted for our students. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, roll call in.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Strelacci?
Yes.
Dr. Gales?
Yes.
Mr. Kemna?
Yes.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Yes.
Dr. Giordano?
Yes, and I'd like to congratulate Ms. Stahl on her retirement and wish her all the best. Curriculum and technology action items. Mr. Stevens.
On the recommendation of the superintendent, I make a motion to approve action items 8.1 to 8.7.
Second.
Question or comments from the board?
Yes.
Yes.
8.7, we had a very quick curriculum meeting the other day, and didn't really get a chance to read over all the materials until I got home. 8.7, we're paying $3,700 for an online, everything online, all the materials are online. The program itself is going to be online one day, and it's for HIB. Now, we have quite a bit of experience in HIB, and we have a HIB person, and we have a lot of very senior administrators here. I'm just trying to figure out why we're paying somebody $3,700 for an online program on HIB. There's the information we can find out in a multitude of places, and if we have a real question about it, we can ask our attorney.
So happy to discuss this David Nash is considered the state's foremost expert on harassment, intimidation, and bullying. We had a majority of the, at that time, all of our administrators and counselors who touched the HIB process trained in June of 2019. We've since had new people who are onboarded. There's also new changes to the HIB law in some instances. There's also been new case law, and this also leads to the NJPSA FEA HIB certification. So for the new folks that we're onboarding, it's important to do that and also to get a refresher for some of our other folks. It's common practice throughout the state, and it's considered the gold standard of HIB training, and it's also being funded through federal Title II dollars.
That's all well and good, except the fact that, you know, there's really no reason to do it. I mean, we've been doing HIB now for many, many years, and, you know, we may make an occasional, you know, mistake, but overall, we know what we're doing, and if there's changes, why isn't there somebody here that can take care of that for us? Well, anyway, the board can vote as it pleases.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one, Dr.
Yes, Dr.
Giordano. Regarding action item 8.4, I know that we've used this professional service for quite some time, a number of years. It just jumped out at me that their rate for evaluations was $700, and historically they have raised their rates annually by $10, $15. But from last year to this year was $50. Do we have, and that might not seem like a big deal, but in terms of the historical perspective, is there a reason why they jumped from a $10 or $15 to a $50 increase? Is that some kind of COVID pay or?
Do we know, Dr. Z?
I can't speak to why Dr. Platt has changed his rates. I don't know if it's about insurance coverage. I can't speak to that. I do know that the district has used this vendor for a very long time, and we've been very pleased with that. We have increased the scope of work to include a battery of assessments that we didn't do previously, which I think has made us a safer community. I can research that and get that to you, but as far as I know, it's just the annual increase.
Okay, so you'll get back to us on that? Dr. Zwicky?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, roll call in.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Strelacci?
Yes.
Dr. Gales?
Yes.
Mr. Kemna?
Yes.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
No on 8.7, yes on the rest.
Dr. Giordano?
Yes. Finance and Operations, Mr. Kemna.
On the recommendation of the superintendent, move finance and operation action items 9.1 all the way down to 9.2.
Second.
Question or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call in.
Mr. Kemna?
Yes.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Strelacci?
Yes.
Dr. Gales?
Yes.
Dr. Giordano?
Yes. Administrative action items, Mr. Strelacci.
I'd like to move administrative action items 10.1 through 10.10, and say I'm sorry to see Sandy go. She did a good job for several years, and I wish her good luck.
Second.
Question or comments from the board?
I would like to wish Sandy Beardsley good luck and thank you for her time served.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call in.
Mr. Strelacci?
Yes.
Dr. Gales?
Yes.
Mr. Kemna?
Yes.
Mrs. Ouimet?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Dr. Giordano?
Yes. Old business from the board. Ms. Ouimet.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, so I'm putting it under the old. As far as the VOTEC numbers, will we be looking I know what we had done in the past, and it's kind of hard because of what we can do, but is there any way to do maybe a virtual tour of the school just to present to some of these parents, especially we have so many things at the high school, and I know it helped to bring down those numbers years ago when we did the tours of the high schools. If we could set up something like a virtual tour to let them see everything that is here, because when people hear academy, they think that they're getting so much more, and you're getting so much more here at the high school.
Good point. Dr. Zawicki, can we talk to Mr. Stansberry and Mr. Moore about doing something like that?
Sure, and as we discussed previously, we're looking in, at the end of the month or in October to do small cohorts of in-person tours. I think we can do some stuff online, but I think no one does it better than Mr. Stansberry, and we can do groups of 10 and 15, and, you know, do it on Saturdays and then have deep cleaning the next day.
Thank you.
I have more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Matt. I apologize.
Do we have the new emo contract books yet, Lynn?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know usually we get them, I don't remember how long the lead time is by the time it ends and by the time we get it, but I was just wondering if we could get copies of that when it comes out there. Also, there was Education Foundation meetings, is that correct?
No, we have not had an Education Foundation meeting since the spring. We're still in the process of waiting for all the final IRS paperwork and that approval, which was delayed because of their backlog with COVID. As soon as we have a meeting, I have had conversations to update the Ed Foundation president, Rhonda Cohen. As soon as we get that final paperwork back, we are going to have another meeting. So we're on pause while we're waiting for the IRS to complete the process.
And if we could just get copies of the minutes of those meetings? That would be
Sure,
helpful.
so I'm not the president of that, so I think you'd have
It's
to.
just a request.
But they're a separate entity, so we can request it from Rhonda Cohen.
Lynn, can you reach out to Ms. Cohen and see if she can get us minutes from those meetings?
Thank you.
Sure.
The last one is, will the new superintendent contract be on the website? We used to have the superintendent contracts on the website before.
Absolutely. Lynn, can we see if Dr. Zawicki's new contract can be put on the website?
Sure.
Sorry,
And
Lynn.
also, when we have, I think we did involve the teachers and the administrators too, all three of them, and Teamsters?
I don't know that we've ever put all of them on the website, but
But Mr. Weemat makes a good point. We should put them all up, since the public should be able to access to all of them. All good, Ms. Weemat?
Yeah, the only other one, it's kind of like the bill list, and it's kind of like old, because I know I had asked about this, not asked about it, but we talked about just different, what we pay for different things. Is there any way to get a year-to-date on our legal services, where we are currently up until the end of September 2019 versus 2020?
Sure can, that's a good idea. Joe, do you think when you get back to the office, you can run that? Gail, can you get this, that? Actually, it's from Gail. Gail, can you run that from September 19 to September 20?
Well, September won't be in yet. I can do it August,
August, okay?
Oh, I couldn't hear what he said.
I said September's
won't
not in
be
yet, so I can do it August, if that's okay.
August. September's not done yet so you
Oh,
said
okay,
August,
whatever you have, that would be good. Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Mr. Roselli.
Anyone else? New business. Any new business from the board? Mr. Petrie.
Can we look at how the connectivity is with the school, since we have so many students going onto the servers and dialing in?
John.
Microphone.
Sorry.
Is there a way we can see how the connectivity is going with all of our students online? I've heard some stories. My son got kicked off like 5 times. So I want to make sure that's not just his issue. How are we doing with, people dialing into the network, going on the Zoom, like the Google Meets, just to ensure that we have the connectivity to cover the entire district?
Sure, and, Jim's here, and he updates me on a daily
You guys
basis.
speak into your microphone a little bit more.
I am. It cut out for a second. So none of the issues that were experienced during that first week had anything to do with our connectivity. Those are cloud-based issues that were across North America with Google, and that was posted on the admin back panel from Google and the Google alerts. So that was not, none of those things were Mount Olive issues. The kids getting kicked off, it is one, a Google issue, because a lot of times the bandwidth is different, and so when teachers go to present when they're from home, it's kicking kids out. That is globally, that's supposed to get repaired in the new enterprise version that's coming out in October, which is going to be a whole new suite of extra add-ons for Google Hangout. But that was a national problem and not localized here to Mount Olive.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
For new business?
Doctor, yeah, new business.
Yes, I think this is appropriate to put here, and if not, you can let me know, and I'll stop and wait until board comments. But in Dr. Zawicki's superintendent's report, he talked about the equity task force, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more to put some flesh on it, because I thought that it was a really good start of a meeting. Would that?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely, sure.
So that meeting was on the 17th, and I just wanted to give the board and the public an overview of what's to come. So Dr. Zawicki provided a Google slide presentation of just kind of setting the groundwork and the foundation. And the idea is to create 5 subcommittees, which should be done sometime this week. And the 5 subcommittees include racial inclusive curriculum, discipline policies, building relationships, access to higher level courses, and diversity of school staff. There's also going to be a piece in there about religious tolerance and inclusivity. The equity dashboard that will be created along with the cohorts will also include twice exceptional students, LGBT students, and there's going to be a professional development component as well. There are going to be quarterly meetings and updates. There will be an annual review in August. So August of every year, by August 31st, the board will have the annual report in addition to whatever comes out through board meetings and the superintendent's report. There's also going to be a superintendent's book study that will start by the end of October. Those subcommittees that I mentioned will start meeting in the beginning of October. And Mr. Stansberry was also on the call, and he talked about the Tapestry program that started at the high school last year. There are currently 14 cohorts that are addressing religion, ethnicity, race, including LGBTQ+. That is also a cohort. And there's going to be a feedback loop via climate surveys to parents, faculty, and students. And I just wanted to share that with the board because I think it was a really good hour session. There were a lot of good questions from students as well as other members who were represented. It was a very diverse group of members throughout the school community, and looking forward to seeing what this group can pull together to move us forward in terms of equity for all. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else with new business?
Yes, one thing.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
The anatomage, I understand we have the equipment, and, you know, I mean, I know everybody's doing a million things, and they're very busy, but I was just wondering if we would have it together by the time the seniors get here.
Can you say that again, Mr. Robinson? I'm sorry.
Anatomage,
Anatomage.
the lab, the new lab, the equipment is allegedly here, but we don't have enough time to put it together right now because everybody's doing so many things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
Mr.
just
Stansberry
wondering if
shaking
it'll be
his
ready
head.
for
We don't have the
seniors.
basis for it, and we also have not set a date of return for the seniors. But the idea is that to get it set up as quickly as possible, both that and Z-Space. But we're waiting for the basis for the tables, and once that happens, and Mr. Stansberry is nodding, then we can do it. So we don't have the complete tables in stock yet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, public comments. Students, parents, employees, and community members may comment on any item of interest pertaining to the Mount Olive School District. Please state your name and address for the record. All comments must be respectfully presented. Abusive and obscene comments will not be tolerated. Lynn, did we have any online questions?
No, we did not.
Anyone from the public, please stand up, say your name and address for the record.
Hi, Hi, I'm Brianne Jarvis, 54 Deer Path Drive, Flanders. So my girls have also had a problem where they've been kicked off the computer when they're doing their assignments, and it's not the teachers coming through, but when they try to log onto an assignment, then it just bogs down and shuts them out. So I understand you're saying it's a problem that will be fixed by October. So is that something I should just prepare them for until October?
Unfortunately, so what it is, you have one Google product that's at end of life, and then in 2 weeks, the new product with all of their breakout rooms and things like that is coming on board. So I think that's what's happening, but it's happening everywhere. My own kids experienced it. So it's unfortunate and it's frustrating, and I wish I could do something about it.
And so in that case, like they're not going to be marked out of the class if they can't. There's been times where like a link's not popping up in time to log into class on time.
So the students are not going to be penalized at all, and as soon as it happens, they should let their teacher know. But we're monitoring it on a daily basis. I'm in contact with the principals, Mr. Neglia, but it is a Google problem right now, and that's because they're bringing out that new piece. It's the worst timed thing. I don't know why they couldn't roll out the new enterprise with Google Hangouts and all the other new features. I don't know why they couldn't have done that August 1st. That's, I don't work in Silicon Valley, but I wish they had, because it's really unfortunate and frustrating.
Right, so just that my students are both perfectionists, they want A's, they do well in school, so it's hard for them when things aren't working right, and my husband and I both work, we're not home, so it's just something maybe the teachers should make the kids aware, like if you're logged off, no problem, don't stress about it.
Sure, and we'll and we've been talking to the teachers about it, and the key thing I've said to everyone is adaptability. So, no one's being penalized, and for the kids, I hope they eventually understand that in life, challenges arise and things don't go as planned.
So my other question is about the Gifted and Talented program, and I know it just came up in an article that came out, and I sat on that board, or that group you put together, where we came up with a new Gifted and Talented, and it was pretty much explained to me that Aspire was not enough, and that you didn't really know why certain kids were in G&T and some weren't, and we were going to address that and fix that. Nothing really changed at all last year. My daughter was in advanced math, where she was pulled out and pretty much just taught herself, which I kind of thought, I get they're smarter, they can do independent study, but she's entitled to as much of the teacher's time as every other kid in the classroom. So I kind of had a problem with that, and now this year, both my kids are in middle school. One's in G&T, one's not. I have no idea why. They both test well, they both get A's, and I was just wondering what changed since we had that committee meeting.
So nothing has changed in the sense that since that committee, what was established in that manual was that we're going to use objective measures and multiple measures as per the National Association of Gifted Children and as per the Department of Education, that we were not going to use things like standardized test scores. We were going to use our own internal data. And looking at giftedness, one, it's, what's required in statute is that we follow what's in our policy, that students are in what's considered the top 10%, right? So that's one thing we look at, but the definition of giftedness is that academic piece, the commitment to task and creativity. So all of that was worked into that, and we were looking at that. So Aspire did continue last year. It was supposed to be changed at the end of last year, but we had the pandemic and we kept it going. Aspire, our MO Success Academy, starts next week. Aspire starts in August. The other thing that I think has changed is that we're doing a better job at differentiating in the classroom, and we're using other tools so that we don't have to pull kids out. And so that in the classroom, using a tool like Achieve 3000, so rather than a student having to go to another class, they can, if they have a 1300 Lexile level, they can read the article at the 1300 Lexile level. So those things are things that we are doing that are different. But the biggest thing that has changed since that committee meeting is how students are identified. And through our universal screening of every kid, we're identifying students who are at risk and need intervention, and we're also identifying the students that are above grade level and need enrichment.
Right, so is that how you saw that working though? Like if you're advanced in math, you would just go sit at a table with other advanced kids and work independently? That's how it was framed?
I can't speak to that, and I don't know what lesson you're speaking of, but what has changed is that it is now subject specific, where it was whole hog previously. Right. So I'm not going to say it's perfect, and I'm happy to speak to you offline.
Sure.
You can email me anytime about specific issues with your children.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Closing the public comment, Lynn. Board comments, Ms. Ouimet?
I always want to say thank you to the parents who come forward like that. We always like to hear. And also thank you to the other people in our audience who are always regulars. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes, I just, pretty much, I want to thank all of our staff and everything. This is a very difficult situation, and our administration, it's incredibly tough. But I also like to thank the parents. They overall have been very considerate of what's going on and what we're trying to do. And, you know, it's not perfect, but it really can't be perfect for everyone. And, you know, down to, you know, the distribution of books by our staff and meals and everything else, I just think everybody's doing a tremendous job, and say thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strelacci?
Yes, thanks. I have two things, but first, I want to wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Robinson. I don't have to say it again. He said it as well as anybody could say it. Two things. I want to reiterate that this is just not a desirable place to have a Board of Education meeting. It's difficult to hear. I'd like to see the person that's speaking. I'd like to have them see me, and so forth. And this just is not conducive for that. We should be back in that middle school. I don't know whether the law right now is 25 people or 25%, but we don't even exceed that. I mean, we have like 17, 18 people here tonight. So I really would like to recommend that we meet back over at the middle school. This is too dark in here. You can't see anybody. It's ridiculous. But the two things that I wanted to say is the board every year makes goals. And one of our goals, it's a perennial goal, and that is communication. I would like to thank our superintendent because no one has ever communicated like he has, from his blog to his Parents University, answering questions, and especially in a time like this, and still getting all the communication out to all the parents and all the people. Even people in the community are tuning in because I speak to them, and they don't even have children in the district. There was another thought, too, that as I just had a senior moment, so maybe you can come back to me later because I can't remember what it was right now.
We're going to pass back in. Just let us know. Mr. Stevens?
I can't read my writing.
Dr. Zawicki, for all, something that nobody would ever expect, in this entire lifetime, and for all the hard work and everything going on, as well as the parents who are coming up today.
Nolan?
Oh, the mic.
Sorry.
I'll repeat myself. I want to thank the parents who came today. Your voice matters, especially your students and your children. That's the biggest thing, and that's especially why I ran. We need to hear that, and we need to know that, and we want to work to make sure everything's perfect. And thank you, Dr. Zawicki, for your hard work, as well as the teachers, and that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you. Dr. Gales?
Thank you, Dr. Giordano. Just very quickly, I just wanted to say I'm saddened by the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and condolences to her family and loved ones. I have to say that over the past couple of weeks, the supply pickup at the schools has just worked meticulously. So great credit to everyone who organized it, everyone who is a part of the distribution process. Great job. Just for a note, 9/29 is a council meeting, and I don't know if any one of the individuals who will be interviewed are doing anything pertaining to the council meeting, but just something to keep in mind. And finally, I wanted to end with this. Folks see me kind of playing with my cell phone. I'm trying to keep this message up so I don't lose it. I kind of found this on, I believe it might have been LinkedIn, and I just wanted to share it. And it's a message to teachers, but it could apply to any individual in our school community. And it says, in the event no one has told you today, you are doing incredible things. You are the reason so many of our students look forward to school. You weren't taught to be an educator through a pandemic, but you are adapting, and you are making a difference. and that's from educator Dustin Brannon. And so I just wanted to share that so that all of our staff members, from our administrators down to our aides and custodians and security guards, know that each one of you makes a difference in us achieving the goals that we have set forth in this district. And I thank you, and I believe I can speak for the board and say that we thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kemna.
Yes, two things. 142 AP honors, that's unbelievable. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago when the district decided they wanted to pay for the AP classes, so that is remarkable for the district. Also, Dr. Beardsley, again, I want to put a shout out to her. She committed to almost 3 years. She moved out of district. Do want to thank her for her service and leading the subgroups there, so good luck to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kemna. Mr. Petrie.
Just want to shout out to the teachers and staff. They've been doing a great job. Having a schedule actually is such a big improvement since last year. I know that my son's still not quite got into it and got to remind him every 25 minutes, did you join? But I think it's a move forward. I think they're getting a lot more out of it. Mr. Salachi mentioned Liz Gallo with the PTA. If you've never met Liz, I feel bad for you. She is one of the most amazing women I've ever met. She should be like, she is into everything, so I just wanted to give her a shout out. Sad to see Sandy go. We got elected together, so it was a good time. That's it.
Thank you. And I'd just like to reiterate what several board members said. Thanks to the administration, the staff, the students, the parents. This is unprecedented times. There's nothing we can go back to say this is what we did in the past. So everything is new, and every solution we have to a problem creates other problems that we have to deal with. So kudos to everyone who's involved in working together as a community should. Motion to recess in the confidential session. Resolve that the board meet in confidential session for the purpose of discussing personnel, matters of attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that matters discussed in confidential session be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality no longer exists.
So moved.
We're in closed session.
Is there going to be action?
There will be no, thank you. There will be no action taken.